American society in the early 1930s was buckling under the weight of the Great Depression and the strict rules of Prohibition. In cities like Chicago, the dense urban environment became a breeding ground for a new kind of chaos. The streets ran with the consequences of this fractured society. Rival syndicates fought for control of the lucrative bootlegging trade, culminating in public, bloody displays of violence, like the stark aftermath of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Men like Al Capone dominated the morning headlines. The public read about their exploits with a mixture of horror and intense, undeniable fascination, watching as these figures built criminal empires outside the law. Yet movie theaters during this time rarely reflected that harsh reality. Early Hollywood crime films often sanitized the violence, portraying these criminals as misunderstood figures acting as modern-day Robin Hoods. This stark disconnect between the bloody reality on the streets and the sanitized fictions of Hollywood created a cultural vacuum, leaving an opening for a film that would actually confront the brutality of the era. An eccentric young billionaire decided to fill that void by financing an unvarnished gangster epic. That backer was Howard Hughes, known as much for his massive aviation ambitions as his immense wealth. To execute this vision, Hughes hired director Howard Hawks. Hawks was known for his razor-sharp pacing and an intensely masculine storytelling style, making him the ideal candidate to handle the raw material. Together, Hughes and Hawks agreed on a strict creative mandate. They would strip away all the typical Hollywood glamour and build a dark, unflinching mirror to hold directly up to American society. Putting ripped-from-the-headlines violence onto the silver screen was a dangerous prospect. The film industry was heavily monitored by conservative moral watchdogs who dictated exactly what could and could not be shown in theaters. Hughes and Hawks refused to compromise their commitment to realism. Their insistence on authenticity meant this production was on an inevitable, dangerous collision course with the era's powerful censorship boards. To guarantee the script sounded authentic, Hawks hired Ben Hecht. Hecht was a former Chicago journalist who actually knew the mobsters he was writing about, and he hammered out the entire screenplay in a furious 11 days. Hecht modeled the foundational arc of the story directly on the real-world rise and fall of Al Capone, ensuring the plot points matched the headlines audiences were already reading at their breakfast tables. But Hawks and Hecht added a deeply unsettling layer to the narrative. They deliberately mapped the twisted, power-hungry dynamics of the Italian Renaissance's infamous Borgia family onto these modern mobsters. This combination of Capone's life and the power-hungry Borgias stripped the gangsters of any heroic nobility. The script presented these men as cruel, uneducated pack animals, driven by a primitive ambition that made their eventual downfall certain. Acclaimed stage actor Paul Muni brought the lead role of Tony Camonte to life. Muni delivered a terrifying, animalistic performance, defining the character physically with a brutal, jagged scar across his cheek. The supporting cast added critical texture to this brutal world. Alongside a chilling Boris Karloff, George Raft mesmerized audiences with a subtle habit that instantly became a cinematic staple, casually flipping a nickel coin. To elevate the script into visual poetry, director Howard Hawks integrated a brilliant, dark omen throughout the film. He established a strict structural rule for this motif. Whether cast by a swinging street lamp, built into the wooden rafters, or carved into the architecture, an X-shape appears in the scenery immediately before a character is murdered. This recurring visual foreshadowing removed any sense of randomness from the violence. It suggested that in the world Hawks created, every murder was an act of preordained fate, mirroring the inescapable mechanics of classical theater. Off-camera, the production faced a severe threat. The Will Hayes Office, the organization established to aggressively police movie morality, reviewed the initial cut of the film. The censors were immediately outraged. They cited the film's kinetic, casual brutality and argued that it served to glorify the criminal lifestyle to impressionable audiences. The office demanded massive re-rates and forced Hawks back to the set. Their most severe requirement was an alternate ending, where the anti-hero is arrested, tried, and legally hanged rather than dying in a police shootout. The final insult came when the censors mandated an explicit, scolding subtitle. They forced the filmmakers to officially release the picture as Scarface, Shame of a Nation. Infuriated by these delays and compromises, Howard Hughes pulled the movie from several state markets. He locked the original cut away in a vault and spent his own money to wage a fierce legal battle against the censors. This unprecedented war over censorship ultimately proved that the film's brutal authenticity was a highly effective, threatening mirror held up to American society. When the film finally reached audiences in the spring of 1932, the long delays and legal rumors had generated massive public anticipation, reflected in lines stretching around theater marquees. The reception was chaotic. Though several major cities successfully banned the movie upon its initial run, the controversy propelled it into a massive box office sensation where it was allowed to play. Ticket buyers have never experienced a piece of entertainment so kinetic. The pacing was relentless, the dialogue was sharp, and the violence mirrored their morning newspapers with uncomfortable accuracy. The film established a specific vocabulary of tropes: the coin-flipping henchman, the neon "world is yours" sign, and the rapid-fire dialogue that served as the foundation for the entire genre. By refusing to soften their dark, expressionistic view of America, Hawks of Hughes left behind a work that remains an uncompromised example of what filmmakers could achieve before the censors took control of the industry.